Welcome back. In the previous lecture, we have seen how to pass a slice, a struct, and a map to our templates. In this lecture, let's take a different route. Let's see how we can pass a function to a template. So instead of passing a data, now I want to pass a function which will modify or which will work on our data. Let's see how we can do that. But instead of following a traditional route, work our way through the documentation. So I'll go to Chrome, and here I have text/template, and here I'm on the text/template page, and let's go to our index section, which is here. And now here I see a list of functions in this package. Let's scroll down, and here we will see something called as funcs. So we are going to use the funcs function to pass a function to our template. Let's see how it goes. So I'll click on this function, and here you can see that funcs add elements of the argument map to templates function map. So basically we have to create something called as function map, and then we have to pass this function map to the funcs function. Eventually funcs function will return a pointer to the template. And by now I'm sure you know how to work with pointer to a template. So let's head over to VS Code and see how it works. Let's start by creating a func map. So on top of the main function, I'm going to create a new variable. Let's call it func map, or let's call it function map, just to be very precise. And this will be equals to template dot func map. But before we do this, let's head over to documentation one more time and see what is the type of this func map. So if I click here you can see that func map is basically a map of string to any. So the key will be a string and the value can be anything. Let's read it. Let's read the first line. Func map is a type of map defining the mapping from names to functions. So that is why in the documentation the type of function is given as any. So basically it means that it can be anything, but the name has to be a string. Let's head over to VS Code, and now we know what to do. Func map is a struct which will have a string to any mapping. So the name has to be a string. What shall we call it? Let's call it uppercase. I'm going to write a function which will convert my data or my text to uppercase. And now this will be equals to an inbuilt function which is provided by the strings package. So let me just import it. And we have the strings package imported over here. And inside this strings package, there is a function called toUpper, which is right here. And we don't have to write any parentheses. So I'll just do here, and let's put a comma in the end, and that is all we need to do. So here we have defined a func map where the function name is uppercase and the function itself will be strings.toUpper. So whenever I'm calling this uppercase function, eventually this strings.toUpper function will be called. Let's save everything, and now we need to pass this function somehow to our template over here. Now how do we do that? Let's see. Inside my init function, which I'm going to move it down a bit so that everything is crystal clear, although it doesn't matter, but I like to keep things in order. And now we have the init function over here. Somehow I need to pass this func map to my template. Let's go back to the documentation and see how do we do that. So here, let's go to index one more time, and now I will go to the funcs function, which accepts the func map, and eventually it will return us a template or a pointer to a template. Now here we see that this must function returns a pointer to a template, which means that I can safely append the funcs function over here. Let's try to do that and see what happens. So I'll write dot funcs, and this takes a template dot func map, which is over here. So I'll just pass function map like this. And now technically we should be able to access this uppercase function inside our template. Let's go to base go.html file and let's try to use this function. So now here I'm going to write uppercase space and the value. So if everything is correct, this should work. We should see the uppercase name. Let's save everything and let's go to our terminal, and I'll write go run main.go and see what happens. We have an error. Let's try to debug the error and see what we have. Here it says that template base go HTML on line number 10, which is this, uppercase is not defined. So what's really going on? So while parsing, Golang will scan through the document, and on line number 10, it will see that we are trying to use a function called uppercase, which is not really available at the time of parsing, because here we are parsing first and then we are attaching the functions. So that's wrong. While parsing, uppercase function will not be available, and that's what the error says. The function uppercase is not defined. So how do we fix the problem? Clearly, we need to attach our function before parsing it. Let's see how we can do that. So I'll go to the documentation, and here you can see that the function is available only on the template. So clearly we need to attach this function to the template directly. Now that's a tricky one. So let's get rid of this from here because it is completely wrong. And now I will write tpl dot funcs, and here I'll pass function map. This will return us a pointer to template, and then I am chaining the parse glob function, which will eventually return the pointer to a template and error. And finally, the must function is doing the error check for us and returning us the template pointer. So let's save everything. Now I am attaching the functions first and then parsing my template. So technically everything should work. Let's save everything. Let's go to our terminal and I'll clear it, and I'll write go run main.go. And there you go. We have one more error. So let's see what's going on this time. Invalid memory address or nil pointer dereference, which means that I am trying to access tpl.funcs, but at the point of writing this funcs function, tpl or template is nil. So whenever we define our template like this, it will be equals to nil. And because this is nil, we cannot call a function in a nil pointer, or we cannot attach any function to this. So how do we solve this problem? Again, this is not going to work. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and let's write template here so that we have everything like before. Now let's head over to the documentation and see if we have something. Now here, let's go back to index, and if I scroll down a bit, here you can see that we have a function called as new. Let's see what it is. New allocates a new undefined template with the given name. So whenever we use the new function, it will take a string and it will return us a pointer to the template. That sounds interesting. Let's see how it works. So here I'm going to write template.new, and then here I'm going to give a name. But for now, I'm just going to give an empty string like this, and then I'm going to change .parse glob because new function returns us a pointer to a template, and that is why I can chain the parse glob function. Now after calling this template new function, we have the pointer to a template, which means that I can directly attach the funcs function like this, and I'll call the function map. And now first we are attaching our functions, and then we are parsing the template. So technically we are still achieving the same thing. We just have to attach the functions before parsing, which we are doing here. So let's save everything. Let's go back to our terminal and let's run it and see if this works. And there you go. Everything is working as expected. Let's go to base HTML and see what we have. There you go. You can see that the name is in capital. So clearly our uppercase function is working perfectly. Let's attach one more function and let's see how it works. So I'm going to change the location Berlin to all caps like this. And now I'm going to attach a lowercase function. So let's write it like this. We have lowercase, and the value will be strings dot to lower. No need to write any parentheses. Let's put a comma in the end. Let's save everything. Let's go to base go HTML, and here for location I'm going to write lowercase like this. Let's save everything. Let's run main.go in our terminal. Everything worked. Let's go to base HTML, and there you go. We have lowercase function working perfectly. So as you can see, we worked our way through the documentation. And that is why I always stress on reading the documentation. If you are stuck, just head over to this file and read the documentation. Read about the functions, what they are expecting and what is the output, and then finally you can try out each function one by one and see what works and what doesn't. And even then, if you are stuck, you can always reach out to me in the Q&A section, or you can directly email me, or you can reach out to me on the Discord channel. There are so many ways to reach out and clear your doubts. So I would highly encourage you to try things out. All right, let's take a pause here and let's continue in the next one.